will fly.
Yo guys, what is up? Mox here with another Borderlands 3 video, and today I am bringing you my Bullet Witch Amara build. This is a spin-off of the Ricochet Witch, and you can use both builds together or separately. We are using and abusing the mechanics of Ricochet Witch in order to be able to do more damage and use more diverse weapons in order to mob efficiently and kill bosses really quickly. Now, I've been working on this build for a while. We're going to go over everything. But before we do that, I just want to show you guys one thing real quick. I hope you guys are excited for the build, and we're going to be going over the skill trees, the guns, and everything you guys need to know. Enjoy. Yo guys, hope you enjoyed that intro. Before we get into the video, quick thing that I need to say is my community event, the hashtag Takedown Challenge, is now over. At the time of filming, this is January 31st. We have picked the winners. I'm still deciding on the most creative builds for the winners for that, and we are going to go frame by frame analyzing everyone's run, making sure that they didn't speed up their runs, didn't use modded weapons. So that is going to take a second, and it's taking a lot of time on the sides of myself and my mods for helping me with it. So that video announcing the winners and giving out the $1,500 in prize pool money will be out shortly. But for now, just wanted to mention that we're working on it, and in the meantime, I'm making this build video. So this Bullet Witch build, if you guys want to just see the skill tree, is right here for you. This is the green tree. This is the blue tree. I'm gonna go back in nice and slow. Blue tree, and then red tree. We're gonna be going over all of the skill decisions here, and how the mechanics of this build work, what to use, what not to use, the optimal gear, and how you can make it with suboptimal gear. This is the weapon that I am using, the optimized carry. We're gonna be talking about more optional weapons in a second, but this is the main weapon of the build. The carrier assault rifle with bonus to shock anointment, and a shield and a grenade with different elemental anointments. We are using a spiritual driver class mod and an elemental projector. You guys have seen something similar to this. This build is very similar to Ricochet Witch because it uses pretty much the same mechanics, but there's some different things going on here that I want to talk about. But if that's all you wanted to see, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And now we're going to talk about what's going on here and why this works so well. So, for those of you who don't know what the Ricochet Witch build is, it is a build using the recursion shotgun that when it hits an enemies, ricochets to other enemies. However, when we're using different elemental anoints with this, we can make the recursion spawn multiple projectiles and kill everything. It is an absolutely amazing build. Now, I made a carrier Atlas build a while ago, before the driver even came out, and a lot of people have been asking me to revisit it. So today I am revisiting that carrier build and improving on it. The carrier is a underrated weapon. It performs amazingly well on pretty much every single character. I'm using it on a build right now that should be coming out on some other Vault Hunters, and we're going to keep a little hush-hush for now. But absolutely amazing weapon. The core of this build is that the carrier spawns multiple projectiles when it hits an enemy, and the carrier's projectiles can be influenced in the same way that the recursion can be. Now, I have been testing with a few different things to make the carrier do the most damage, but the core of the idea of it in the spawning multiple projectiles is we're trying to get the most projectiles as we can to spawn so that we can do the most damage, and the projectiles that are spawning we want to be boosting with our elemental projector. I was having a long debate with myself and chat about if it's better to use a few core elements, aka the elements that we can boost with Conflux, Fire, Shock, and Corrosive, or if we should branch out into using as many elements as possible. Now, from our testing, I found that for this gun and this mechanic, it is best to use as many elements as possible to do the most damage, and then we're using Conflux to boost those elements that we are doing. So, it sounds very confusing. I'm gonna play a clip right now that'll kind of explain it, and then we'll get into more of the skill choices and what's going on here. Alright guys, so let me show you guys how this multiple projectile spawning kind of thing works. So, right now we have radiation damage, incendiary damage, shock damage on our carrier. We're gonna be using shock infusion and forceful expression with the carrier, so that when you shoot, that is one projectile hitting him right now. Let's let them fly out a little bit. So on this, we are getting 1, 2, 3, 4 projectiles. Let's make sure that's correct. It should be 5. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 projectiles. Yep. Alright, now let's switch it over to corrosive. So now, instead of doing shock and shock on this, we're doing shock and corrosive, so we just added another element. Reaction skill again. Shoot. And like immediately, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projectiles. These are all gonna come back and hit him. So there's some things that we need to work out and test with doing this, but I'm going to explain my decisions here about what elements to use and how many elements you should be using and everything like that for you guys. So what you're going to be looking for is a carrier with a bonus anointment. It doesn't need to be shock, it just needs to be bonus damage on action skill end. This is going to give us 1 bonus elemental damage. Now, I have a backhand with radiation damage. I would rather be using a recharger or the transformer for this. I don't actually like the Bandit Sidorak for this because Conflux can kill you, and so like bigger, better shields are better for this. So the transformer is great. The recharger is probably the best shield for this because you basically have 2 HP bars. Unless you're using a shock dot on yourself, then the transformer will always be better. But on our shield, we're using a backhand that has radiation. We're using a firestorm with incendiary damage. So just between these, we have shock damage, we have radiation damage, and we have incendiary. 3 elements already. For the kills that I've been doing this, I've been mainly using shock, but I noticed when I switched to corrosive that I do more damage and I kill Trant faster. So we're using shock damage here and corrosive here. Notice that we have Amara's 3 core elements plus 1 bonus one. So it's really important with this build to be using Amara's 3 core elements, shock, fire, and corrosive, and then 1 other one, either be radiation or cryo. I recommend radiation, I just like radiation more. Now with that, we are shooting the carrier, and we're doing as many different elements as we can to spawn the most amount of projectiles. And the core elements, fire, shock, and corrosive, we can boost with conflicts. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain that right now. So this has been a mechanic. It is in my updated Ricochet Witch build. This mechanic get explained. But basically, with the driver class mod, when you phase grasp, you apply your action skill element to yourself. Any driver class mod, no matter what it is, applies a roll. Now look, we're corrosive, but we're now corroded and you're on fire. The reason we are on fire is because of conflicts. Whenever we apply a status effect to an enemy, we get a chance to randomly electrocute, ignite, or melt that enemy. This extra chance is going to allow us to proc fire, shock, and corrosive on ourselves, and every single one of those elements is going to get boosted by our elemental projector. So we're giving ourselves elemental damage of 3 elements. 1 element won't get boosted, and for each of the elements we are going to be getting more and more projectiles. So what happens here is you phase grasp yourself. You now are going to be doing at least 4 elemental damage types, and then when you shoot, all of your projectiles are going to spawn more projectiles and have a crazy cascade effect, and gives the build its name Bullet Witch, where there will be bullets flying like crazy. Now, the carrier works great with this. So does the Lucian's Call, the King's Call, the Queen's Call, any of the call weapons, and the recursion. If you want to run just this setup with the recursion and the carrier, will be great. You can use the recursion for like mobs and the carrier for single targets and bosses. It works really well. It absolutely melts them. But you can also just use the carrier for mobbing and DPS. You can run the whole takedown just using the carrier. Something super cool that I don't know if a lot of people knew, because I didn't know this, is the carrier shoots through Wotan's shield just like the recursion did pre-patch. So you can shoot right through Wotan and melt his shields shooting through his barrier, which makes this build even crazier that it can do that. Super, super awesome. Now, our point allocation is we're using Infusion. Infusion because, 1, it's going to give us more elemental damage, a different element, and 2, because the carrier can only come in non-elemental. There is no such thing as an elemental carrier, so we're using Infusion to give it elemental damage, which we are then boosting with Tempest. Anima boosts our status effect damage, and most importantly, our duration. So when we phase grasp, the dots are on us for a long time. We're using Dread for bonus gun damage, and when we kill an enemy that's grasped, we get our gun reloaded. Deep well for magazine size. This is if you're going to use elemental weapons. The carrier doesn't actually benefit first, but it's an easy point and there's nothing that great to get. So when you do pull out an elemental weapon, you'll have increased magazine size, but not necessary for this. Indiscriminate is amazing with this. You're going to be spawning so many projectiles the same way with the recursion that it's going to murk everything, mobs, bosses, super crazy. Same kind of setup in the updated Ricochet Witch as sustainment and conflicts. It's a very similar skill tree. You can run both, but sustainment 2 points, conflicts 5 for the chance to ignite yourself or electrocute yourself or melt yourself. You may note that if you haven't done this before, haven't tried this before, you are not going to lifesteal from the carrier with sustainment. This infusion to an elemental damage doesn't actually give us lifesteal, and this anointment for bonus shock damage doesn't give us lifesteal from sustainment, which sucks, but it's very easy to get healing from this by using Ties That Bind. Ties That Bind, if you haven't seen, I've also made videos. This is a combination of a lot of videos I've made. Ties That Bind, when we link an enemy, the shared damage that is done between the enemies counts as elemental damage with our weapon, and so this sustainment is actually going to heal us from the link damage we're doing, which is really nice. Don't need any more points here than 2 because you're going to heal like crazy when you have linked targets and there's gazillions of bullets spawning, and then Forceful Expression for just more bonus elemental damage. Fast hands, totally not needed here. I just like having it. It's going to give us some reload speed, some weapon swap speed, and some mode swap speed. Then we're going personal space. for bonus damage when we're up close. Not needed, but it's not nice to have. We're getting clarity for our increased health regen. Once again, this isn't ricochet, which we're not using an elemental weapon, so it is more beneficial when we're spamming our action skill to be able to get our health regeneration. When we use it, we're going to get health regeneration. We're going to have constant health regeneration, but when we actually use our action skill, we're going to get double the health regen, which is really great. Helping Hands, which is awesome. We have 5 points here, +1 from our class mod. So more damage reduction, 5 points here. We're going to be spamming our action skill. This damage reduction is really super nice to have. And then mindfulness, the bread and butter of any build that uses the driver. +3 in mindfulness is super important because our damage is scaling off of our movement speed. And I wanted to talk about this because this is a huge factor in the damage of this build. When you're running around mobbing with this build, you can just shoot the carrier at enemies. You can shoot them maybe like a few times. Most enemies like maybe 3 shots, and it'll spawn so many projectiles that'll kill them. And I just use the normal smart bullets when I'm mobbing with this build. But when I'm actually bossing, when I'm fighting a boss, whether it be Wotan, whether it be Trant, Tyrene, any boss you want, even like rare spawns, I hit them with, you can either use a track grenade or a puck. Depending on what carrier you get, you'll have a grenade or a puck, I believe, or tracer rounds that you just fire at them. Doesn't matter what it is, genuinely doesn't matter. All that matters is that you hit the enemy with the tracker. This tracker is going to then give you the tracking ability on your carrier. This allows us to run at full speed and shoot without having to worry about hitting crit spots or aiming or anything like that. It is going to allow us to use the driver's scaling from our movement to its fullest extent. So basically, when we track an enemy, we can then move as fast as we possibly can and run around being like unhittable because we're so fast. So we're running around really, really quickly. Nothing can hit us, and all of our projectiles are raining down on the enemy that we'd like to hit. This synergizes so unbelievably well with the driver class mod because you don't have to worry about hitting the enemy with crit. You don't have to aim down sights. All you have to do is maintain your speed and hold down the RT button. I have done this kill on Trant and other bosses many times, and maintaining your speed and being speedy while you're shooting and while the bullets are impacting is very important to being able to melt anything in the game. For trash mobs and everything else, it doesn't really matter because you're going to do so much damage. But to get those nice, beautiful looking one clips, you should be moving at full speed. Lastly, to talk about some gear and augments, I am using a spiritual driver with weapon damage and Atlas weapon critical damage. This dropped for me while farming during the Red Chest Riches event. Really crazy, but that's a pretty god-rolled spiritual driver. So all of the clips that you have watched in this video, we're using a spiritual driver with weapon damage and shotgun damage. So just plus 25 to the weapon damage. But you PC players that have save files, you will be receiving this in the save file with weapon damage and Atlas weapon critical damage. This makes it even freaking more insane. Absolutely crazy that we got this, and it's not great because it doesn't have 2 into helping hands, but it does have +3 mindfulness, which is essential. If it didn't have +3 mindfulness, I probably wouldn't be using it. And then lastly, we're using an elemental projector auto idle. Auto idle is very nice to have here because we don't have as much lifesteal, so when we kill enemies, we are going to get our health back. Note that I have magazine size, crowd damage, and movement speed. The crowd damage isn't benefiting me much because I don't typically use crowd damage with this. I like to stick to corrosive, fire, shock, and radiation. But we got magazine size, which is really nice, and elemental projector and the max healing. The grenades that you're using for this and the shield don't matter that much. If you wanted to use something with singularity on your grenade and bonus damage, that would be nice. And a recharger transformer would probably be the best thing for your shield with the anointment. The carrier doesn't matter what anointment you get. If you guys don't get a shock carrier, don't fret. Whatever elemental damage you get on your carrier for the next bonus mags, just make sure you're using different elemental damages on your grenade, your action skill, and on your shield. That is it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. We will have that results video out for the hashtag takedown challenge very, very shortly. I appreciate your guys' patience. If you enjoyed the video, if you learned anything new, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Catch me on the Twitch. Guys, we are so close at the time of making this to hitting 10K followers on Twitch. It was the absolute dream of mine. Thank you guys so much. And we're on the road to 50K on YouTube. So cool. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one. Peace.